We begin by calibrating instruments: eye, sensor, and ground. The frame opens to a field of signals: spectral, topographic, hydrologic. We speak as metabolic office, assembling protocols and drawings. We also speak with a larger company: humans and non-humans, soils and pollinators, microbes and monsoon, whose labor and life ways co-produce the scenes you see. We treat landscape as metabolism: matter, energy, and attention in circulation. Design here is a protocol, not a picture, a negotiation, not an imposition. We read land as both dataset and lived terrain. Multi-temporal Earth observation, normalize difference water and vegetation indices, stack monsoon pulse against dry season retreat. Synthetic aperture radar registers roughness and moisture when clouds refuse optical views. From low air, photogrammetry gives orthomosaics and digital surface models. Curvature, slope, and topographic wetness indices sketch preferential flow. Position indices and least cost pathing reveal routes goats already knew. We ground truth by transect. Soil pits at slope breaks. Infiltration tests on crust and crumb. Handheld electrical conductivity and total dissolved salts where salt blooms. Photo quadrats across edge conditions. The pixel proposes, the footprint confirms. Interpretation is an instrument, tuned between raster and footprint. The task is not a forced geometry, but a negotiation with geomorphology. A shallow hinge in a contour can reroute a hydrograph. A hard pan lens sets route architecture and determines which species can ever close canopy. Land is not background. It is a set of constraints and affordances already in force. We operate across scales without apology, from basin composites to a handful of sandy loam. Metabolic relation is the subject, not scale. Our drawings formalize relations: gravity with porosity, shade with evapotranspiration, use with recovery. Plans are scores, arrangements of processes and delays, not final forms. Time is layered here. Seconds of wind on a blade of grass, hours of storm, months of groundwater recession, years of land use drift, decades of urban expansion. We design with these tempos, not against them. We work between two misaligned regimes: centralized linear infrastructures that promise perennial supply and rapid export, and monsoon hydrologies that pulse, store, and return. One insists on stability, the other operates by pulse, backwater, and memory. Translation is required, hydrologic and civic. Translation resolves into operations. Detention, pretension, infiltration, conveyance. We set targets by return period and risk appetite. Temper peaks and convert fast runoff to slower base flow. On level ground, microtopography is the instrument. Precise cut fill to compose mosaics of shallow wetlands and dry rises. Keyline swales, bones that slope. The aim is hydrograph shaping, not spectacle. The first intervention is an unobstructed drainage network. We establish continuous, legible drainage armatures so excess water can pass without creating new choke points. Historic channels are reopened, encroachments reversed, culverts right-sized, and cross-drainage underroads restored to preserve continuity. Networks run on clear principles of interconnected water features connected through conduits, blue-green corridors, and stormwater networks, so water always has a deliberate path. Outfalls need wetlands first, not concrete. Transitions include energy dissipation to prevent scouring. Inlets are fitted with silt traps and filtration. The system is kept operable by seasonal maintenance, desilting, deweeding, and pre-monsoon checks. The second intervention is to delay and retain water through storage, infiltration, recharge. While conveyance stays open, the city becomes sponge. We slow, stage, and soak water across the city to reshape the hydrograph, lowering peaks and extending base flow for ecosystems and people. Distributed storage is deployed as detention and retention basins, wetlands, ponds, lakes, rain gardens, shallow park basins, and porous pavements. Microtopography add dwell time. Infiltration is delivered by percolation trenches, infiltration galleries, and soakways keyed to permeable strata. Beneath this, we bank water in our principal reservoir, the groundwater table, using managed aquifer recharge with quality pretreatment. This is the integrated water cycle in operation. Water supply, sewerage, stormwater, lakes, wetlands, and groundwater planned as one interdependent system. STPs are strategically located. Treated effluent becomes a resource for irrigation and recharge. Stormwater feeds lakes and aquifers. Network operations are coordinated with monsoon variability. Planning follows basin and aquifer logic rather than siloed utilities. Labor is the instrument that makes this real. Cutting and staking, grading by eye and level, digging trenches, casting and lifting rings, planting reeds by hand, tamping edges, laying geotextile, clearing culverts, cleaning silt traps after the first flush, logging interventions. This choreography, tedious, precise, primary, converts protocol into hydrology. In a rapidly urbanizing India, what looks natural, a breathing wetland, a quiet lake, is constructed by agreement between people and processes, dissolving the old divide between artificial and natural. Design here is a spatio-temporal protocol for water to remain longer, work harder, and leave cleaner. Soil is our load-bearing system. We specify it as function, storage, field capacity and the distance to wilting, structure, aggregate stability, mean weight diameter, exchange, cation exchange capacity, life, microbial biomass, fungal networks, invertebrate gills. Carbon return is foundational. Biochar, porous, high fixed carbon fraction, large specific surface area, acts as persistent porosity and exchange scaffold. We pair it with compost and microbial inoculants. Nitrifiers, phosphorus solubilizers, mycorrhizal symbionts to seed function. Application is calibrated to texture, higher for sands, moderated for clays, salinity thresholds and intended gilts. The aim is one-time incorporation and long-term effect. Increased plant available water, reduced irrigation demand, improved nutrient efficiency. We protect surface processes, keep it covered, disturb minimally, feed often. Mulches reduce evaporative loss and thermal stress. Cover crops fix nitrogen and build root architecture. Controlled traffic preserves pore continuity. On slopes, hedgerows, vetiver bands intercept sheet flow and arrest rill initiation. At banks, live staking and fascians stabilize with roots, not concrete. Labor is again the instrument. Screening biochar, sifting compost, mixing to ratio, hose cutting shallow basins, spades charging pits, hands inoculating root zones, wheelbarrows moving mulch, drip lines tested, carrying water at noon, returning at dusk, maintaining, weeding, checking moisture by touch. The choreography is repetitive, local, and exacting. This is where regeneration happens. Monitoring distinguishes hope from result. Seasonal infiltration tests, gravimetric moisture tracking, bulk density, EC drift in saline contexts, soil organic matter trajectory over years. We work until a handful breaks along former root lines and drinks a drop without panic. That is the threshold between substrate and ecosystem. This too is an urbanization model, not green as afterthought, but soil as public utility, quietly delivering cooling, retention, fertility, and carbon storage. Again, what reads as natural is carefully assembled, a designed substrate enabling life to take over. We do not plant ornament. We assemble functional communities. Species are chosen by role and trait. Phenology, rooting depth, stomatal conductance under heat, salinity thresholds, canopy architecture, allelopathies, palatability for trophic partners. Gills are composed to provision below ground first. Nitrogen fixtures, dynamic accumulators, mycorrhizal hosts, while staggering floral resources across months. Edges are design engines. We thicken ecotones, wet to dry, sun to shade, wild to inhabited, because diversity and maintenance efficiency both live there. Corridors are dimensioned for movement. Pollinators, small mammals, people. Microclimate is a deliverable. Evapotranspirative cooling along paths, wind baffling through porous belts, shade spans proportioned to diurnal use. Performance is multi-domain. Edible yields and timber rotations with habitat value and thermal comfort. Integrated pest management is trophic, not chemical. Predators welcomed by structure, scent fields that confuse pests, nectar calendars that keep beneficials resident. The bill sits within this mesh, rooms among leaves, not greenery draped on objects. The biosphere is also an archive, a repository of time and transformation. In its soils lie the carbon of vanished forests. In its seeds, the possibility of forgotten diets. In its waters, the traces of ritual and neglect. To design with the biosphere is to work with these latent archives, composing futures from materials already inscribed in the ground. Even when stifled, the biosphere remains an active agent. It pushes back, improvises, adapts, pressing through cracks, rerouting flows, rehearsing life in neglected margins. To work with it is to inherit this ancient infrastructure and recalibrate urban metabolism upon its terms. The natural, you see, is a collective construction, human choreography with more than human response, dissolving the false dichotomy between artificial and natural. This is urbanization rehearsed as biospheric participation.